The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your financial advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member of FINRA and SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth. Sports betting has become a huge enterprise. According to ESPN, more than $3 billion has been wagered since 2018, when a Supreme Court ruling ignited the widespread expansion of legalized sports betting across the U.S. 68 million adults bet on last year's matchup between the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs in Las Vegas. And with 39 states now allowing sports betting, this year's game is expected to set new records, according to Forbes. So what should you keep in mind if you're planning to bet on this year's Super Bowl? Joining me today is Brian Saranovitz. He's the co-founder and CEO of Your Retirement Advisor. What should people consider before placing bets on the big game, especially if they're gambling for the first time?
Yeah, I think really what they should be doing is, making sure that they don't gamble away too much. What I believe, I'm not a big gambler myself, but you want to gamble with what you can afford to lose. What I always say is, don't gamble too big. Make sure that, when you make a bet, have some fun with it, but make sure that it's not your house or it's not your life savings, that it's something that, because these big sports gambling enterprises, as well as casinos, they're not in this to lose money.
No.
They have
regardless.
Yeah, they have some incredible mathematicians and analysts that know exactly what the odds are and exactly how to make them money. So the most important thing is, to understand that in most instances, you're going to lose. And in some instances, you're going to win. And, just make it, part of the thrill of victory could just be, placing a $100 bet and, winning $125. You won.
Right.
It's a victory.
Sometimes it takes a lot of money to win a lot of money. And I found the statistic from Caesars Sportsbook that reported that someone bet $1 million on the 49ers money line. Is it even worth it to gamble that big?
Yeah. I would say no, being, not really being a gambler myself, because, when you talk to anyone that's gambled a lot and that's done a lot of gambling, they would say there was an individual, a sports figure by the name of, I believe it was Art Schlichter. I think it was in the late 1980s. He was the number one draft choice. Mm-hmm. And I saw a documentary on him. He ended up, he was a serious gambler. Great quarterback, great quarterback out of Ohio State. And, he gambled, and he said over the years, he's won, well over $1 million in his life, but he's lost well over $2 million. So anybody that's gambled over a period of time understands that you're probably going to lose more than you win. And the euphoria is, a lot of times is, when you lose and you lose and you lose. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double down because I have to win. There's got to be a point to where I'm going to win. And then you lose $1,000. You say, okay, I've got my last $1,000 in my pocket. I've got to win this time. So I'm going to put the $1,000 in. And all of a sudden you lose that. So that's the euphoria of, believing that the next time you're going to win.
Yeah. If someone does gamble more than they can afford to lose, do you have any tips on how they can recover? Or if they notice, hey, I have a problem aside from getting help for that, but financially, how can they rebound?
Well, I think, once again, that's where you don't ever want to go there. You don't ever want to go there to where, if, you've got, a couple $100,000 in your retirement savings and you put out $100,000 and you're getting ready to retire in another 2 or 3 years, and you say, wow, I could make a bundle on this. Looks like a pretty good odds, that I could make the 100,000 into 200,000, that would really help out my retirement or whatever it is. It's not a great retirement plan, let me tell you. As a retirement planner, you don't want to take a chance that, because you can't recover. If you lose that 100,000 of your $200,000, how are you going to recover that $100,000 over the next year or two or three? If you're making $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible. I mean, the one thing you could do is you can delay retirement. If that's the case and you were 5 years from retirement, you can delay retirement another 5 years. So maybe instead of retiring at 62, like you had planned, now you retire at 67 or 70 to make up for that money.
That's insane to have to extend your working life by years for one or multiple bad bets. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
And that's it. As once again, I think that, as I said before, I think the most important thing is to make sure that, what you gamble with is not going to impact your life. You see all these sports gambling commercials. And then at the end of the commercial, if you have a problem, contact this 800 number. Well, that doesn't help after the fact. That doesn't help after the fact when they're pushing individuals into, okay, we're going to give you this free $50 gamble, amount of money to gamble.
Yeah.
And, so it, once again, there's a lot of danger in that. And the other thing I don't like about these, these sports betting establishments is, to me, it takes away from the game. I love watching football. I love watching basketball. I love watching sports. And when all of a sudden, you've got a bet and your team is, let's say, the Patriots, and you're betting that Brady, because you can bet on anything. Back in the day, you're betting that Brady will have, an interception today, and you can make an extra $1,000 on that. So you're actually betting that your favorite player in the world is going to have a negative impact on the game.
Yeah.
So that's something that, I don't like about gambling. Not just that you can lose everything. It just takes away from the purity of the game as well. I have 3 sons, and they were big into fantasy football. And a lot of times what they were doing is, we'd be watching a game, and the fantasy football was bigger than the actual game we were watching. It's like, guys, stop. Let's watch the game. Let's have some fun watching the game together instead of, looking at your phone and seeing what's actually happening with this player and that player around the league and this player around the league. So it just takes away. It takes away from the purity of the sport.
Yeah. Speaking of your sons, I know you said one of them is into sports gambling. Is there any advice or caution that you've kind of told him, since you guys are kind of like on opposite sides when it comes to that?
Yeah, I told him. I mean, he loved, and he's actually really good. He plays poker, and he's actually really good at poker. And he goes to the casinos and he wins. He does. He truly wins. And Logan. And I've told him many times that there's going to be a point to where you lose. So just be careful, be cautious. And so, recently, before this podcast, I called him because I said I wanted some tips on, what does he think? And he says he sees so many of his friends, young kids, he's 25 himself, and he sees them gambling away hundreds and thousands of dollars and not thinking about it, not being introspective about what they're actually doing.
Wow.
And so he's become very introspective. So he's no longer doing the things that he knows he could get carried away with. People are just in it, and it's taking people, good people that have every good intention and have had money, and it becomes an obsession. It becomes an obsession. It becomes an addiction. It becomes just another addiction. Now there are many people. Now I'm going at the worst of things here,
right.
But there are many people that are very, very judicious in what they do, and they're gambling, and they know they go with $300. That's kind of what I do. And I've only been a couple of times to a casino, but I'll put, $300 in my pocket. And when it's gone, if it's gone in 5 minutes or if it's gone in 5 hours, I know it's going to be gone. That's all the money. I'm not going to go back in and say, go to the ATM and get another $300. That's it. That's my limit.
Yeah. I think that's a great tactic too. Like if you are somebody who maybe is gambling on this game or whatever, like setting a limit, like, okay, I'm going to put $100 in on this game, and if I lose it, I lose it. Or going to the casino, I'm not a big gambler either, but I've went with a couple of friends, and that's what I've done. Like, I've gambled like way less, like $50 maybe, and I'm pissed if I've lost that,
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. Like, I know what it does to you, because I remember last time I went to a casino was probably 10 years ago, but I brought $300 and I was winning, and I was playing blackjack, and then all of a sudden they were feeding me drinks.
Yep.
And I was doing stupid things, and I started losing. So I ended up having probably about $100 left. And I said, you know what? I've got to win this. Like I said, I've got to win this next one. The odds are that I'm going to win this next one. I lost 10 hands in a row. I'm going to win this next one. I know it is. So I put the whole $100 in. And what do you think happened?
You lost it.
I lost. I lost. And I was, like you said, I was upset.
Yeah.
I was pissed. I was like, I can't believe I just did that. But that was it. I didn't reach into the ATM and grab another $300. Say, I'm going to win that back. Is just like alcohol or any other addiction, that these individuals will say, wow, I know if I just take another 300, I'm going to win that 300 back. And then they lose it.
You're upset that you lost in the first place, so you think, oh, well, if I can take out more and then win it all back, then it doesn't matter. And then you just keep falling into that ugly cycle.
You get deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole.
If someone does get lucky and happens to win big, what do you think they should do with that money?
Realistically, if someone wins big, they win big, or they win, more money than what they know what to do with and to spend. It would be prudent to invest that as wisely as possible. Don't put it all in the bank if you've got a sizable chunk.
All right, that does it for this edition of Not Your Father's 2 Cents. Sources used in this episode will be linked in the description. If you have a problem gambling, you can call 1-800-270-7117. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll meet you back here next week.